Good to have you along, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, BJ Bennett, glad you are with us here on this Thursday. So much to get to here on the show. You got the Masters going on, and Brian Harman, Savannah native, tied for the lead right now. He is in the clubhouse at -3, and at last check before we came on the air, he is the only one in the clubhouse at -3, so he's got that distinction. As of right now, we'll keep you up to date on the Masters scoreboard as we roll throughout the show here on this Thursday. But plenty to get to since we've talked to you last. We'll talk some Braves baseball. Bud Ellis, BravesWire.com will join us coming up final hour. We'll look at the 2 opening series home opener coming up tomorrow in Atlanta. Also, Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, set to join us. We'll look at Georgia spring practice, how things are progressing there in Athens as well. And we'll look ahead to some NFL combine stuff this week, even though there's no actual combine workouts. She'll have the medical evals and interviews, things of that sort going on this week. So a lot to get to here on the show, but the Braves, been a couple of days since we chatted with you due to Braves baseball. They finally won 2 games yesterday, get it back on track against the Nationals, winning 7-6 and 2-0. Now have the off day, come home for the Phillies and the home opener, BJ, tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I feel better than I did. You guys knew entering the season that whenever the first losing streak came, I was going to be disappointed and concerned, and start to count it out mathematically. But listen, this is a team that has not looked good, and what I mean by that is Max Fried struggled in both his starts, most specifically his recent start. Ozzie Albies has been very cold. Marcell Ozuna, Freddie Freeman, even guys that have not been able to find their rhythm yet at the plate. You've had some up and down performances from the pen. I mean, Kevin, I'll ask you, at 0-4, when you were down 4-1, and Fried was struggling, and you had Strasburg coming up in game 2, were you concerned at all, or no, just too early?
No, zero concern at all, because you play 162 games, and everything, of course, magnified at the beginning of the season. I was talking about this with Christian. I said the biggest thing the Braves need to do is get 1 win. Just get the first win out of the way, and then it's fine. And, even if they're 1-5, who cares? You get the win out the way, and you come home. And it's hard to freak out about certain things in baseball when you say the following phrase: the Braves haven't even played a home game yet. Okay, well, if you haven't even played a home game yet, then there's no real cause for concern. And I do think that baseball, if you start looking at micro stats, like, hey, here's what he's done in his last 2 games, I'm really not that concerned about that, because that's stuff you worry about at the beginning of the year. And then when it's June 15th, you will never hear, the Braves are 0-3 in their last 3 games. You'll never hear that. You'll be like, hey, the Braves struggling a little bit, got to get the ship righted. And the fact of the matter is this. And people say, well, why? They're 0-3 and lost to the Phillies. Well, guess what? Phillies are going to have a 3-game losing streak in all likelihood this year. Nationals probably going to have one. The Mets, everybody in baseball probably going to have a 3-game losing streak at some point of the year. You say, well, the Braves blew it. Yep, probably going to have 9 or 10 of those, as will the Phillies and the Nationals, where it's like, probably should have won and you didn't. Are there some things that give you a moment of pause? Yeah, individually. As a team, no. I mean, after the first series with the Phillies, the Braves lost seemingly every game by a run, and they were terrible offensively. So the pitching was there. You were in it, just couldn't muster up offense, and you knew that. I mean, just look at the roster. If you're like, the Braves are only going to score 3 runs in 3 games for the rest, it's not going to happen. And it didn't. Scored 7 yesterday. 2 was enough to hold up. So I wasn't really concerned about the Braves at all. At 0-4. It was just a matter of time. Get that first win off your back and go ahead and settle into the season. I think they'll be just fine. Because keep in mind, fellas, after the Phillies this weekend, a little team called the Florida Marlins rolling up on the schedule, and that always the Miami Marlins. Excuse me, I'll still call them my Florida Marlins, and they tend to cure what ails you most of the time.
I just think at the end of the day, I am happy that the Braves did get 2 wins. I mean, 2-4 definitely looks better than 0-6, but I mean, they haven't even played at home yet, as you mentioned, Kevin. And I will say this. I mean, did I see, Freddie Freed, Marcell, Ozzie not playing well? No. Dansby made a show. He definitely came into the clutch. Thank God we got Kung Fu Panda. I mean, he seems to be coming up clutch. I love the fact that, Ronald Acuna Jr., 2 home runs the other day, 2 stolen bases after that. I just think that at the end of the day, we knew this division was going to be tough, period. And BJ, I'd rather go ahead and get it out, because if it was 4-0, what would BJ be saying? I don't know. So I'd rather that BJ coming in and say, I already knew. I said, dude, the Braves have lost 3 in a row. BJ's going, what is going on, dude? And my mom asked me yesterday, she goes, who play more games, baseball or basketball? I said, Mama, basketball can play a whole season, go to sleep, wake up, and baseball is still going on. Like, baseball plays literally every day. They give you a couple of days off, but I just think this Brave team is going to be fine. I think that every team going to have to find their rhythm. And, Kevin, you know this. When the Braves bats get hot, what you think these other pitchers going to be saying? I mean, we said you want Scherzer to look, human. Well, the Braves was making him look human. They just didn't get the dub. So I just think at the end of the day, it's ebbs and flows. I mean, with 162 games, I mean, it's going to come down to the last 2 or 3 games at the end of the year like it does every year.
I mean, BJ, I know you were concerned, but we do have the Florida Marlins coming up, and you just took 2 out of 3 from the Montreal Expos. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, well said. I look, I was texting with you guys because from a mathematical standpoint, and I'll say this: I was looking on my phone, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll try to double check later in the show on a computer with a big screen. But I believe during this Braves recent playoff stretch, they did not have a single 5-game losing streak. So at 0-4, I was starting to think, well, if you go off of recent data history, 0-5 is not conducive regardless of when it comes. Again, the Braves did not have a 5-game losing streak in any of the past 3 seasons. So it's hard to absorb that and then make the playoffs. And then each of the last 3 seasons, I believe the Braves have had 1 4-game losing streak. And the only thing that worries me a little bit is you're here where you haven't been decimated by injuries yet. The season is still very early. Have you already kind of had your 4-game losing streak? And does that mean you can't have one the remainder of the year?
No, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you had a 4-game losing streak. I mean, now if you have like 6 or 7, that means you're a bad team. Well, the Braves aren't a bad team. I think by and large, the philosophy the Braves have is, look, go out and win series. If we can take 2 out of 3, that's fine. Well, when you say that, you're like, well, we literally aren't winning every game. So no, 4-game losing streak, you like to keep those to a minimum. But no, I think at the beginning of the season, it's just magnified that, hey, they got off to a rough start. I mean, I remember maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, the Pittsburgh Pirates were winning the Central at the All-Star break. Everybody's like, oh, man, maybe this Pirates team is going to be a contender. You know what? They finished in that division, I think like 4th and like 15 games out. So it doesn't mean anything at all other than, to me, it's just keep yourself, it's like running the horse race at the Kentucky Derby. You don't want to go out and be ahead by 10 lengths in the first part. Hey, just keep pace with the pack. Then come All-Star break, then start separating and really.
But Kevin, it's got to mean something. You keep saying it doesn't mean anything. I mean, Ben, you said a moment ago you think
it means they lost 4 games.
Well, right, but I mean, Ben said he thinks the season is going to come down to 2 or 3 games for the division. Well, if it comes down to 2 or 3 games, then 0-4 start matters.
Yeah, but I'm just going off of. I have nothing to go off of, but recent history when you talk about this whole division, right? I mean, the Nationals are laughing at everybody because the Strasburg freaking experiment worked, right? It worked when they won it. I mean, the Phillies spend the most money. The Mets going to spend the money on pitchers, and the Braves are going to do it the Braves way, and the Braves going to end up winning the division. I just think, BJ, we ain't even talked about the fact that, I mean, if it carries over into this year, because I'm going to look at 2020 as an outlier. The Braves have the best late game heroics you're going to see. Like innings 8 and 9, they can do some crazy stuff. I just think that baseball is one of those things to where I do agree. The first 6 games of 162 games, I ain't going to go crazy over that, because I think what happens is the Braves stars aren't even playing well. It's Dansby, Acuna, and freaking Pablo Sandoval, and they 2-4. That's not going to last all season. Freddie Freed not playing well, that's not going to last. So I just think that baseball is a rhythm sport, but it's a marathon sport. It's every freaking day. So I do think the Braves are going to be fine. And as much as we were surprised that the Braves are 0-4, everybody in that division was. They are just as surprised as we are when you look at what the Braves have. Yes, they finna have their first home game of the season coming up. But I just think that, BJ, I'd rather you be this way, BJ, because if they were 6-0. If they were 6-0, you would be saying, yeah, but so as long as you're doing that, I don't know. And Papa B looking at old Braves teams from 2019, I think this Braves team is gonna be fine, man. It'll be fine.
Just so, I know you love math. You're talking about regression to the mean and mathematics and all that. Just to like put it in football perspective, in a 16-game NFL season, you're concerned about your team's season when you're trailing in the second quarter of the first game.
Bro, I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I'm concerned about the season before the start of the season, okay, if we're just being real. But, Kevin, when you talk about Max Fried kind of not looking sharp, especially in game 2, when you talk about Will Smith, the back end, do you have any kind of thoughts on Fried and or the bullpen at this point?
I mean, I think by and large, the bullpen has been pretty good. I mean, you look at the games they've played so far. They have not lost a lot of games because of the bullpen. Now, Will Smith maybe, but the rest of them, Luke Jackson is going to do what Luke Jackson does. I mean, I think he's got 1 inning pitched. He's walked 2 guys and faced 11 batters in 2 innings, I think, or 1 inning, I think, and he's not allowed to run. Like somehow he's worked some wizardry.
What?
Wait, what?
I think I was being facetious, Kevin. I think you got fooled by the internet. How the hell do you walk 2 batters, not give up a run, and face 11 batters?
Well, I don't think he pitched like an inning consecutively the whole time. I think he's
how do you
gotten
face
like
11 batters?
I don't know.
And only get 3 outs?
How does Luke Jackson do that?
Kevin,
does it surprise you?
Kevin, you got fooled by the internet, man. It's
maybe.
Okay. I saw that same tweet.
Hold on, Christian. Christian, is he saying that Luke came in, he walked the guy, he struck out a guy, he walked the guy, so he left the game having faced 3 or 4 batters, and then somebody else came in and dealt with it?
Somebody came and finished it for him. Yeah,
but no, he has 1.0 innings pitched, so that means he got 3 outs.
Right.
He has 0 earned runs and 2 walks. Where the hell did the other 9 batters come from?
How many appearances does he have?
1.
He's been in more than 1 game.
1 inning pitch.
1 inning. So if he came in 3 games and loaded the bases every time, then there you go. That's 9 right there.
The Luke Jackson experience.
I'm telling you.
I'm trying to do that math.
Yeah, no, Luke Jackson makes it scary every time. And it's like he throws the first pitch strike like seemingly 80% of the time and then runs it full. I don't know how he does it.
Would you make a change with Will Smith at closer at this point, or way too early?
It's getting close because if I know anything, Will Smith has come in, and by my count, when he blew it the other day, he didn't get an out in his appearance, and I think maybe only threw 1 or 2 strikes, and then has not been good at all in any of the times that he's come in. So yeah, I think that's one of those where you say, "Will, take a deep breath." I mean, I thought Sean Newcomb looked pretty good yesterday. I think AJ Minter could get the job done. I think you have plenty of options you could go to if Will Smith gets it because he's making the big paycheck. But I mean, you gotta do better than getting nobody out and throwing like 2 strikes out of 20 pitches. That's not good.
Do you want the real Luke Jackson line?
Yeah, what is the real Luke Jackson line?
1.1 inning pitched.
1.1.
1 strikeout, 7 batters faced. Kevin.
7. Okay, that's fine.
So where are the other 4?
They're on deck.
Are you seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold?
Yeah.
All right.
They're on deck, waiting to bet.
They're on Twitter. Correct, Cody. They're on Twitter.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. The Braves will be back tomorrow. We'll look at, again, the NFL Draft Combine this week with medical evals and interviews. How could that change some teams' minds and more? We'll get to that. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us here on this Thursday opening round of the Masters. Brian Harman in a right now 3-way tie for the lead, a 2-way tie in the clubhouse between himself and Hideki Matsuyama, both at -3 in their opening round. So there you go. A quick look at the leaderboard. It's got a little local flavor there at the top. BJ and Ben with a Savannah native. Brian Harman tied for the first round lead, and then he's got it in the clubhouse.
Yeah, very impressive. A guy who played here locally and I believe played at the University of Georgia. So I know that's a guy that certainly a lot of people are rooting for moving forward.
Absolutely. And again, I know a lot of folks have been sounding off about the Masters and playing in Atlanta, given the MLB's decision to pull out of the All-Star game. BJ and Ben, what was that, late last week when that was Friday, almost a week ago. Now they decided to move out of Atlanta and then ultimately take it to Colorado. Again, the All-Star game going to be in Colorado, not in Atlanta. I know a lot of folks were looking forward to that game. Kind of your thoughts. I know you guys had the breaking news there on Friday. What was your kind of initial reaction to that?
Well, I understand the frustration and the voting laws and the disappointment and the concern. I think it's important to have conversations. I think it's important to ask questions. I think it's important to look at kind of how all of us in various different capacities can advocate, can stand up for groups, can stand up for people. I think it might have been Freddie Freeman who said, I guess, either right when the move was announced or right before it was announced, hey, could we use this to address issues that need to be fixed? Could we use this as a platform, as a statement to call out things that we don't agree with, to stand up for the underserved? And I think there's an element of that where good points are made. I know there are concerns that the impact of moving the game might hurt people that, you're intending to make a statement and say, hey, this is not okay. And a lot of people agree with that, but maybe you hurt people that you're not intending to. But I certainly understand trying to say, listen, this is not something we support. This is not something we want to be a part of. And we're going to try to stand up and however we can either make a change for now or make a change moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, when it first happened, I was all on Twitter. Everybody was like going real crazy over it. I think sometimes I always am very, very amazed how politics and sports are intertwined. And we get to talk sports every single day, but how do you get the attention of those things through a sport? Well, you say, all right, well, we'll take it out of this city. And then the nation starts, because I don't know if everybody knew of what was going on in the state of Georgia. I don't think if the other 49 states knew what was going on, whether they did or didn't. But I just think sometimes we don't understand that people are saying, well, this is about the consumer or the shareholders. Well, it's about both. The shareholders are going to understand that, listen, the consumer are the reason why you even have anything to negotiate with on Wall Street. So I just think that it just shows the power, of people's collective effort. Because I mean, if you somebody in Georgia didn't think that no one cared about this, well, you got their attention now. I mean, you talking about the All-Star game, you talking about how many people is going to be, and I get it. The city of Atlanta is going to suffer, but the state of Georgia was going to suffer. So I just think that this is a small gesture to things moving forward. And I also think it's a sign of the times. We have a lot more. We have a lot more like use with each other as far as like being able to get information. But yeah, I do think it's a step in the right direction. I just think that understanding too. I mean, there is no progress, with anything, without taking a step back. People are gonna be mad at it, and you know how it is, Kevin and BJ. I mean, the All-Star game. If you've been looking forward to it, Ronald Acuna Jr., those guys in it. But I just think that people looking at the greater, the bigger things going on in the state of Georgia, and this is like I said, this is just one of, I think, many things to come. If you could do this with the All-Star game, who knows what kind of stuff could be taken away in the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch to see how other leagues respond and how they do it. Again, I'm kind of interested to see how this continues to play out. As far as the game itself, I mean, they're still having the game. It's just in another state. So, I'm kind of like, the MLB's free to do what they want to do. I mean, I think they should have left it alone, but again, they're free to do what they're going to do. I'll still watch the All-Star game. I mean, I'm going to watch it on my couch. I'll still watch it on my couch. So, I mean, I get that leagues are trying to push agendas. I know that there are sponsors trying to push guys in certain ways, and there was some reports last week that, that was why MLB did it, was that their sponsors, not MLB, they did it for money. They did it because their sponsors were putting pressure on them. So they decided to make that move. So I'll be interested to see what happens and if we see other states trying to host events, if their local laws are combed through and state laws are combed through before they decide to have events in other states as well. So I'm interested to see what the trickle-down effect is, not only for the Georgia situation, but other states as we go through. And if there's certain things in certain states that people don't like, are we going to pull events out of there and not have them? I'm just interested to see how far it expands out at the end of the day.
Well, and I think there are some historical examples of this. I think moving forward, it's important to have dialogue. I've learned so much from talking to so many people. Ben, I've learned so much from talking to you about a wide variety of different things. And I think when you start asking questions, those conversations that ensue can be important, can be meaningful, can be powerful, can help people see things that maybe they didn't see the first time, can help people learn more about situations that maybe they don't know a ton about. So as you see, and I don't know what you want to call it. Is it kind of the blendings of politics and sports, that you've seen? I think conversation, dialogue, and listening is so key throughout all this.
And I understand this too. This could be, is what's going on in Georgia considered everybody's fight? Yes and no. But what's going to happen when it's something that's near and dear to you and somebody steps out on your behalf and they doing something to help you? I think that's kind of what I see what's going on with this. It's one of those situations to where, think about how smart, what gets people attention in the South? Sports. What you mean? The Braves. What an all-star game, Atlanta, and they moved it out. That gets people attention because like Kevin said, people still going to watch it. But the city of Denver saying, hey, yeah, they're going to benefit from it. So I do think that it's people, man. Everything we talk about is made up of people. Sports, sponsors, that's people running these things. And you got some powerful people behind the scenes saying, pushing the button, making a decision, like Kevin just said. If the sponsor said it's getting out of here, it got out of here. So for those who be thinking sponsors can do that, hell yeah, that's where the money is. So if the money says leave, you leave. So but I do appreciate the fact that it might not have been everybody's fight, but they said, look, man, we're going to do this for the state of Georgia, man. That's the only way we can push back against some of these policies. We'll see what happens moving forward. But for 2021, I think the state of Georgia, from the previous election, and I'm not getting political, and what's going on now is is showing the rest of the world we don't play no games in this state.
And again, we'll see what the fallout is moving forward, and then what happens with sports and all their events as we come through. I know we had I wasn't here, but you guys had Carl Gilliard on, state representative, who said, hey, he thought the game should have stayed in the state of Georgia. Didn't think he, in his opinion, agreed with the law, but thought it should stay. We had a quick clip of when he came on with you guys on Friday. Go ahead.
State Representative Carl Gilliard from Garden City, kind enough to join us on the program. Sir, thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, news out of Atlanta today regarding the All-Star game. What is your reaction?
We just completed day 40 in the Georgia General Assembly, so we just completed the 2021 session. Senate Bill 202 is a travesty for Georgians. I think what is happening is a direct result of people say Jim Crow and people say Jim Crow 2.0. I say Jim Eagle, because what has happened is Georgia decided the fate of the voters in November, whether we voted Democrat or Republican. And in January, Georgians voted Democrat or Republican. They voted. In the 2019 session, we kind of, as a General Assembly, we changed the voting machines and different parables. So we did some repair in reference to voting. And a lot of those were at the hands of those leaders that came up with this bill. So to come against the will of the people is a powerful thing. I don't totally agree with it being moved out of Atlanta, because I think a bigger statement would be for them to have the games in Atlanta, and at the game to make a statement, much like the basketball leagues did in the inception of Black Lives Matter and all the above, using that platform. LeBron James came to Atlanta in the All-Star game, and the first thing he did coming in is he took a stand against his bill. So There's going to be more, I think, that will come. Coca-Cola, Delta has already made a statement, as well as Coca-Cola. Immediately when Delta Airlines made a statement, those that were in leadership, and and I'm not about parties, so Democrat or Republican, but those that were in leadership put a bill out to tax Delta Airlines. So we got to stop the petty politics and get back to the basics, because now it's affecting the economic growth of Georgia.
State Representative Carl Gilliard from Garden City, kind enough to give us a few minutes, sir. We really appreciate your perspective
and
your time.
And that was him joining BJ there on Friday on the show, talking about that as that news broke about the game being moved out of the state of Georgia. We'll come back. More to come. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Also live on ESPNCoastal.com. We are live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. So you can catch us broadcasting live on those social media platforms. Also, we got the NFL Combine this week, sort of. No working out. We got medical evals, interviews going on as well, and certainly a lot of talk about Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, 2 running backs. I know we've had many a debate about, do you take running backs in the first round, this and that. A lot of mock drafts have both of them inside the top 25. BJ and Ben, what are you getting with these guys? What are they bringing into the NFL?
I'm glad to see the pendulum swing back some to kind of running backs being potential first-round picks. I know for a while you had the conversation there. I don't care who it is. We're not going first-round running back. Look, these guys can change your offense. They can change the dynamic of your team. I think if you want to get into positional value, that's a real thing. I absolutely agree with that. And that's why you see predominantly quarterbacks, offensive tackles, edge rushers go at the top. But I don't like saying never. I don't like saying there's never a chance or never a guy. I mean, traditionally, interior offensive linemen aren't valued as high picks, right? Normally, you look at an offensive guard, and Ben, you can speak to this better than me, but you go, hey, good player, but you're not going to change the dynamic of my team being an interior offensive lineman. Well, the Colts said Quentin Nelson, he's going to change our team, even though he's a guard. I mean, you can say the same thing about non-pass rushing linebackers, right? A lot of times people will say, hey, you can get guys who can tackle in the middle rounds. Luke Kuechly went in the top 10, and the Panthers said, hey, you don't rush the passer, but you're everywhere. So I just don't like saying never. In terms of Etienne and Harris, I think they're both good. For me, very good, obviously. To me, what separates Travis Etienne is I don't think in the NFL you're going to get traditional workloads that you get in college, right? Like 20 rushes, 7 or 8 passing attempts. So you got to be able to make the most of limited opportunities. And I look at your work rate. Travis Etienne in college for his whole career, 7.2 yards per rush, 11.3 yards per reception. That is considerably better than Harris in both categories. And Harris is very good in both of those categories. So for me, then the rare playmaking ability and the ability to say, hey, you may only get 17, 18 touches, but you're going to change a game with that. That's what I like about Etienne.
I mean, the thing is, when I think about Travis Etienne, I think about Alvin Kamara. When you talk about a guy who you don't got to give him as many touches, but he's going to give you a lot of production. But I do think that Travis Etienne is going to have to be paired with somebody because I've never seen him be a bell cow. So don't make him something he's not. Now, Najee Harris, I see more, Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, a guy that gets better as the game goes on. But it always frustrates me when we talk about the running back position. We act like the running back position, the only position that don't do well in the league. Quarterbacks stink every year, and they go into the top 1, 2, and 3, and 4 because of the position, not because of the production. But go back to the Super Bowl. People are going to talk about think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look at that everybody that contributed in the Super Bowl, not named Mike Evans, was a newcomer. You got Tom Brady, quarterback. You got Antonio Brown, the receiver, and what's that other guy? You had Leonard Fournette. I'm telling you, when you can get it, and I'd rather pay a back on the rookie salary cap, on the rookie wage scale, and get him when he first coming out. Everybody's better when you first come out because you ain't got the wear and tear on your body. When it comes to these running backs, Quentin Nelson is an outlier. He might be the best guard ever. When it's all said and done. I think that when you start talking about the running backs, you need balance to an offense. You got these young receivers, right? You got the Zach Williams, you got the Trevor Lawrence. What do all quarterbacks need? A running game. If I could just hand the ball off and push guys around, it's going to make it better. Najee Harris is more of the old school running back, ground and pound guy. I think that Travis Etienne is more of that slasher. Like he can do a lot, with a little. So I do think you need variety, but I've never ever gotten to this. Kyle Shanahan got everybody thinking that all you need is a running. Well, everybody's good in his scheme. How many other schemes outside of Shanahan's scheme and back when, his daddy, Mike Shanahan, when they had them Denver running backs, yeah, you could play and plug them guys. Well, that's a father and son. It ain't too many other schemes to where because when Ezekiel Elliott was good, Dallas was better because now Dak got to do it all with all the receivers. So give me a running back like Travis Etienne and Najee Harris that you can build around. I think it makes your offense that much better.
And again, it'll be interesting to see. Again, the philosophy on running backs is what are you getting? I know you say positional value, BJ. These are two guys that were very special at the college level. how high do you think they could go in this draft? I know top 25, one thing to say, hey, they will. Then you kind of see how the draft plays out. Do teams want to put first-round capital on a running back, given some of the other needs that we've talked about just in this segment, whereas quarterbacks, wide receivers, linemen, defensive ends? Where do you see these guys going?
I think the right teams could, not everybody. And that's why I agree with the positional value thing. I'm not saying that if you're sitting there at 5, just because Travis Etienne's one of the all-time great running backs in college, you go, oh, got to have him. Well, A, he's got to fit what you do. And then B, as you do with every draft pick, you look at it and go, okay, is this guy worth more than an edge rusher? Is he worth more than an offensive tackle? But Ben, the thing about Etienne that makes him especially valuable to me is you look at, he averaged close to 12 yards per catch for his career. These are wide receiver numbers. I'm looking in the SEC last year. Kadarius Toney, 14 yards per catch. Elijah Moore, 13.8. Shi Smith, 11.11. Anthony Schwartz, 11.78. Jaden Walley, 13.8. I mean, he's basically giving you wide receiver production out of the backfield, and that is so rare.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, though, I mean, what happens when my offense stalls? That's what a running back does. What happens when I got a running back? Because we look at it as production. Well, look at how much a running back can contribute. They run the football. Check. They can go out there and catch the ball. Check. They can also pick up the blitz. Receivers only do one thing. They catch the ball and block. That's it. A running back means a lot to a offense when you really look at what they're doing. Oh, what if that offensive lineman missed that block? Who picked up that block? Leonard Fournette. Hey, man, I'm telling you, when you got a smart running back, I go back to Marshall Faulk. He had Peyton Manning had Marshall Faulk when he first came to the league. Peyton Manning said, I made it through my rookie year because of Marshall, because he showed me. So we be devaluing these guys because, we look at everybody around him. A great pass rusher becomes great. These guys are good in college. You might not hear from them for 2 years until they learn how to get right. Quentin Nelson.
Let me ask you this about Etienne specifically, and you too, Kevin, right? Because we've seen, and y'all may have talked about it earlier in the week, Atlanta open to trading the number 4 pick. If Atlanta were to trade back into the teens and 20s, how would you feel about Etienne being the first round pick?
I wouldn't mind it because of this reason. People always go back to, when was Matty Ice at his best, right? When was he at his best? What did he have? He had elite players at every offensive position. He had Tony Gonzalez, he had Roddy White, he had Julio, and he had Michael Burnett-Turner. Now, Michael Burnett-Turner was not a first-round pick, but he had that ability. He was behind LaDainian Tomlinson. He wasn't going to start. So if I got a guy that adds to my offense, right, and he's a rookie, and he's only going to get better because Matty Ice not going to let him out there with him unless he's ready. Like, forget what Arthur Smith say. Matty Ice said he ain't going to be out there if he don't know, because if he don't know, I'm on the bench, and I don't even know who the backup is in Atlanta. Did Matt Schaub retire? I don't even know who the backup is in Atlanta. I just think
it's Kurt Benkert, BJ's favorite Virginia quarterback.
Kurt Benkert, yeah, man. I used to buy insurance from his family. I'm just saying at the end of the day, BJ and Kevin, everybody don't need a running back till you need one, right? Think about it. Why did Tom Brady go to Bruce Arians and say, we need this guy, Leonard Fournette? They had running backs on the squad already. Who helped them win the Super Bowl? That would be Leonard Fournette. I'm telling you. Yeah,
I mean, but in that scenario, if the Falcons do move out of 4, I still think they have needs elsewhere.
Yeah, the Falcons they do.
Before running back. Now, I'm not saying if you get one of those, it would be a horrendous pick. I tend to fall more in the camp of I can get a guy in the 2nd round or 3rd round that can do. Devontae Freeman, I think, was a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round. But I think you have other needs that need to be addressed before you go there.
That's the only other thing I was going to say, BJ. I was listening to you as I'm like, yeah, Travis Etienne, phenomenal football player. If you can get him, great. Najee Harris, it will fit in a lot of spots. But at the same time, would you rather do that or grab a real position of need for your team and then grab a Trey Sermon late 2nd, early 3rd round? Grab Kylan Hill, who's slotted to go like in the 4th or the 5th round, whereas you're spending your top pick, your most valuable franchise-defining pick, on a running back. Now, I know I get drug on this program for quote-unquote hating running backs.
Not by me.
Love running backs. But to me, that just seems like a really dangerous scenario when you can have one of those top 10 players where you are with the Falcons, or you trade back and draft a running back in the 1st round. I don't think that's the best way to go. I think you've seen the most teams find success picking that guy like a Devonta Freeman in the 4th round.
I think that's a fair question. Sure. And I think let's say you trade down and you're sitting there, at 20 or whatever, and you're looking around going, okay, who's here? I mean, if Christian Barmore's there, yeah. If Caleb Farley's there, yeah. If Gregory Rousseau, I still can't believe he's slipping. If he's there, yeah. If you're looking at Tevin Jenkins and maybe you go, hey, there's a, potential 10-year starter at offensive tackle. I understand it. All I'm saying is, and I certainly think there's truth, and I think we all do to different extents in the notion of positional value. All I'm saying is I don't love the word never, and I hear a lot of people say never take running backs in the first round. Well, to me, I think there are examples, modern and historically, of running backs changing the dynamic of an NFL team. Again, I wouldn't often take an offensive guard in the first round, certainly the top 10. But if Quentin Nelson's there, I do it. I don't know that I'm in love with taking a non-pass rushing linebacker in the top 10. But if Luke Kuechly's there, I do it. And I think there are guys, and to me, especially when you factor in his ability as a receiver, I think Travis Etienne might be a guy that gets you to kind of open the door more than some other guys might.
Like I said, I mean, I'm always going to go to bat because we act as if the running backs are you can get quality all in the joint. We talking about the Atlanta Falcons who haven't found a pass rusher since John Abraham, and he was a free agent pickup. Come on, man. Stop this nonsense. Get a running back.
A lot of defensive ends trying to find that guy. You got Vic Beasley. You had Jamal Anderson. You've gone out and gotten free agents. Ray Edwards. Who was coming off a Pro Bowl year.
You said they drafted him. I think 2 times in
you
2
did. Who was the guy out of
Jonathan
Massaquoi? They drafted
2 times
him?
in 2 decades. You spent a first-round pick on a defensive lineman. I think that might be more of the problem.
You got 2 offensive linemen 2 years ago. 2. Me and BJ was at the draft. I'm like, what? They got 2? They got 2.
At least they're starting.
That's true. Well, we got more to come. We'll get a Masters update. Take 3 right around the corner and more. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you along. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Glad to have you with us. We'll take 3 coming up top of next hour. Also look at the Braves off to a struggling start at the plate in some cases. Bud Ellis will join us final hour from BravesWire.com. We'll talk some Georgia football final hour of the show with Mike Griffith of Dog Nation as well. But we take a quick check of the leaderboard there at Augusta and Savannah native Brian Harman, -3 in a 3-way tie right now with Hideki Matsuyama and Patrick Reed. Also an Augusta. He's an Augusta native, Patrick Reed. He is at -3. He is playing 18 as we speak. But 3 guys, 3 under right now for the lead, day 1 of the Masters.
All right, I'll ask you guys this. Kevin, you would know. Christian, you would know. Ben, you're like me, man. We just kind of occasionally check in golf and go, I don't know what's going on. So we see guys get off to good starts. What's the biggest challenge or what's the biggest obstacle in terms of getting off to a good start versus staying there through the weekend?
I'd say for the most part, it's really just math, right? Like if you have your best round day 1, yeah, you're going to be towards the top of the leaderboard, but can you do that over 3 rounds? Not very many people go wire to wire at Augusta. So what you usually see is the dudes come out and get back to what their average is, which is somewhere around even par, probably a little bit over. I tweeted out earlier, I hope Hideki Matsuyama wins. I didn't pick him in the snake draft that we did, but he's always a guy, BJ, that you see for the first 3 rounds, he's top 5, and then it just kind of fades out at the end, misses a couple shots.
Well, let's be real. Also,
misses a couple shots.
It gets a lot harder on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, they start rolling that bad
well.
boy. Yeah, they start rolling the greens a little bit. But I mean, we were talking about this, Kevin, on Monday with Rich. It's amazing how much more difficult the course is right now than it was in the fall when Dustin Johnson's out there shooting 24 under, and now your leaders are in the clubhouse at 3 under, and they were playing out of their mind. So, I mean, Augusta is back to full strength right now. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah. And again, I would say the same thing. Brian Harman, it's about tomorrow is about putting yourself in position for the weekend. So just hang around a shot or two.
Oh, I mean, that's real important, Kevin.
Yeah.
You want to be towards the top of the leaderboard coming up to the weekend because you don't want to have to tee off early, man. You'll be able to sleep in and have one of those late tee times.
Yeah, but Christian, I mean, obviously you called it a year ago when you talking about Tiger, but I mean that final round. I mean, is it the hardest round in golf to be in that last group in the final round in the Masters?
Look, nobody's coming out there in a black hat with a red polo on and black pants, right? So you don't have to worry about
now they
that.
might. It just won't be Tiger Woods.
If you do that, just get the hell out of here. Like that outfit is reserved for one man only. But it's different, man. I mean, we've seen Jordan Spieth blow up in the past where he has hit multiple balls in the water coming up in the final round. So I think it's going to depend on who's there. There's certain guys where it just doesn't phase them, like a Brooks Koepka, but I mean, he's kind of out of it already. So it's going to be interesting to see without Tiger in the field how they react.
Yeah, final first round. Brian Harman tied for the lead, -3. He's in the clubhouse. Hour 2 coming up next. 3 and Out. Good to have you along. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us here on this Thursday. So much to get to here in hour number 2. We'll look at the Braves off to a struggling start offensively and certain guys. Will Smith back in the bullpen off to a struggling start. We'll look at that coming up a little bit later this hour as well. But first, it's 4 o'clock. Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, fellas, which take one former Bama quarterback will have the most touchdowns in 2021? Tua, Jalen Hurts, or Mac Jones?
Tua. Tua's going to be a great pro, and people overreacted to his relative struggles last year. I mean, we're to the point now, Ben, we've talked about this, man, that if you're a high-profile quarterback and you come in and you're not immediately incredible, everybody's like, oh, bust, you're overrated, you were terrible. I mean, keep in mind, he was coming off of a devastating injury, just a horrible injury. And in a perfect world, probably shouldn't have played in year one, came out there and did give it his all. And I watched, I think it was the Buffalo game where he threw 3 or 4 picks. And listen, you're going to have bad games as a rookie. No one wants to talk about it. Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions, almost set a single season interception record his rookie year with the Colts. And I'm not necessarily comparing the two, but look, Tua's a very talented quarterback. Great arm, great player, great toughness, great, sees the field, has a great feel for the pocket. He's going to be very successful in the pros. And I think people who are already saying he's done, that is so off base. He's going to have a great year.
Of course, it's going to be Tua. I mean, Devontae Parker is a guy that's not being talked about. He's a legit number 1 receiver. Gesicki is a tight end that's only getting better. They're going to add maybe either Kyle Pitts, or either Jamar Chase. One of these receivers. Does he go Devonta Smith as far as like add another weapon to him? And the thing about it is, Joe Flacco is the backup for Jalen Hurts, which means they don't have a lot of faith in Jalen Hurts, or they wouldn't put a guy behind him that can supersede him, or take his job. And Mac Jones, unfortunately, he's not going to have the best talent on the field anymore. He's not going to look across the CDBs that can't run to his receivers. He's not going to be looking at a defense that's just not better than his offense. So for that reason, I'm going to say Tua.
Well, I would say Mac Jones. Do we even know if he's going to start? Because it depends on where he's drafted. So it really comes down to Tua or Jalen Hurts. I think it could be Jalen Hurts. Again, they're in Philadelphia. Neither one of those guys, I think, in a tremendous division. I know the Bills for the Dolphins going to get in the way, but certainly the NFC East was not much to write home about for much of the year in 2020. So I think Jalen Hurts, once he gets an opportunity to play, if he plays the full, 17 games, I think he's going to do it. I'll give me Jalen Hurts throwing more TDs than Tua. Right? And wouldn't that be like the ultimate? Like the whole time Jalen Hurts at Alabama, it's like, yeah, but there's this guy named Tua. And then all he does is Jalen Hurts, all he did was win, and then Tua comes in and plays a second half national championship game, loses his job, goes to Alabama, gets them in the playoffs, has a tremendous season. It's like, yeah, but look at what Tua's doing. Always seemingly second fiddle. Not so fast in 2021.
Okay.
For Jalen Hurts over Tua. Take 2. Which sporting event causes you to get the least amount of work done?
The NCAA tournament, and I'm going to say that both directly and indirectly because prominently, or I guess first and foremost, it prevents me from getting work done because normally it cancels out the show. So the first round of the NCAA tournament we normally have, and you're talking about it playing in the afternoon, so we don't have a show. So by proxy of that, I got to go with the tournament. But also, man, you're trying to watch multiple games at once. You're following the upsets. You're looking at the highlights. You're looking up information about players and schools. You're looking at your bracket, seeing how terrible you are in your group and in your league. So, look, you got great sporting events, wide variety of sporting events. But to me, the first round, I guess the first day, and does it fall on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday? But just the NCAA tournament, the intro to the NCAA tournament is so consuming. It's like nothing else matters while the NCAA tournament is on, and everybody's rooting. If you win against Kevin's advice and you pick like a 13 over a 4, obviously that has your complete and utter attention for the 3 minutes. The 4 has like a 7-point lead, so you're following all that, man. It's the big dance.
I mean, for me, it's definitely the Olympics and track and field. I mean, growing up, that was one thing that I really, really enjoyed. I mean, now that being an adult, I definitely think it makes it so that, I mean, I grew up with, the Michael Johnsons of the world. You talk about the Carl Lewises of the world. Now, Usain Bolt, he has retired. I mean, the only guy to go to 3 straight Olympics to win the 100 and the 200. Who's going to be the next great sprinter? And surprise, surprise, the guy who was going to be the coach for the track and field team will be Mouse. Mouse is, the head track and field coach for the Florida Gators, and the number one hurdler in the world goes by the name of Grant Holloway, representing them boys from Gville. But it is a track and field event because at one point, shut up, BJ, I was kind of fast. I wasn't fast.
I mean, look, Kevin wants me to ask this. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it. We know you went to Florida on a football scholarship, but were they aware of your world record in the junior and the junior trials?
Listen, man, a lot of people don't really want to go into my background and really see, man. I come from an athletic family. I ain't from the muck. I don't be chasing rabbits or nothing like that. But back in the day, I had to get on out of there, boy. That's what they say in Swainsboro. Get on out of there. I had that, BJ. But then this was when I knew my track, where life was coming to an end. 12 years old. I get ready to run. I look to the left. There is a 12-year-old with a full beard and mustache. Like, I'm looking. I'm like, hey, dude, you in the wrong line, dog. He was like, nah, dog, I had to cut this down. I said, what? You looking like you got a small gnome family in your freaking beard. But yeah, back in the day, when I had to get on out of there, boy, I used to run a little bit, BJ. And look, I didn't break no record, but I'm telling you, I'm gonna go ahead. We didn't film it back in the day, but I'm gonna have to go and find way back in the early 90s, and I'm gonna show you, BJ, how your boy used to do. Listen, get that hate out your blood, man. You need to stop that. Don't listen to Kevin. I didn't say I broke the record. I just said that when I had to get that, I made it to the Nationals. That's all I'm saying. Never. And George Kitchens, if we're gonna do this, went to Clemson, and he was in the Olympics. We was on the same track team. Look it up. Road Runners, Augusta, Georgia. Deal with it.
I don't even know what to say to all that. Ben was very fast running, but
Kevin could go 70 miles an hour. Kevin had a 70 miles an hour fastball, and I was jumping out the gym when I was a young boy.
I wasn't setting world records or close to the world record at the end of the day. But moving on, take 3. There's just dudes sometimes who are better at certain places. Bubba Watson has 14 wins in his pro career. 2 of the 14 have come at the Masters. What is your favorite example of an athlete who just dominates at a particular location?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a college football one, and I had to get confirmation from Ben on this, which he was eager to provide. But you think about Georgia, Florida, and Florida, Georgia. It's been such a special rivalry, and love the fact that it's in Jacksonville. Kelvin Taylor, all right, that guy did it against the Dogs. And his freshman year, he had like 80 yards, which is good. I mean, especially against these Georgia defenses. His sophomore year, he went for 202 touchdowns. Okay, 197 Dog fans, but I'm rounding up. That's 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then as a junior, went for $125 and 2 more touchdowns. So you think about his dad doing it big in Jacksonville, one of the all-time greats, legend. He liked playing in Jacksonville. Great player, had tremendous performances against Georgia. So I got to go with this is turning into a Gator take 3, but I got to go with Kelvin Taylor out of Florida against Georgia and Jacksonville.
And if I'm not mistaken, BJ, I think the last 1,000-yard rusher has been Kelvin Taylor for the Florida Gators, the son of Fred Taylor. So that bloodline runs deep. For me, it's the younger brother of Peyton Manning. That's Eli in the Super Bowl. Eli Manning was an okay regular season quarterback. He wasn't bad, BJ. He wasn't good either. He was just like in the middle. He was that's all you got. But the arch nemesis to his brother was Tom Brady. Peyton Manning's arch nemesis. When you look at Eli, you're going to look back on his career. He went to 2 Super Bowls. 2007, the undefeated New England Patriots team, they lost in the Super Bowl to Eli's team. 2011, the same Patriots team lost to Eli Manning. So when you think about it, Peyton Manning went to 4 Super Bowls and won 2. Eli went to 2 and won 2 against Tom Brady. So I'm saying a guy that just balled in the Super Bowl was Eli Manning. I'm not calling him a baller by no stretch of the imagination, but if you staring over at the GOAT and they say, what happened when you played Tom Brady? I beat him. I mean, I'm just saying, when you're talking about in the biggest stage, I beat him. So out of Tom Brady's, 3 losses, 2 of them with the Eli, and I think he shook Eli's hand. I think he's not allowed to not shake hands in the Super Bowl. So for me, it's Eli Manning.
I think there's a great choice. Chipper Jones at Shea Stadium. Good one. Tom Brady against Atlanta. That's bring up painful memories. I know. He's 5-0 in Atlanta. Also, I won't say the one win that everybody talked about that he had over Atlanta. 4-0 though.
That has nothing to do with anything. That was in Houston.
I mean, is it? Can we say?
But that's a team, not a venue, Kev. We're talking about venues.
Sorry.
You don't have to bring up 28-3 and everything.
So what? Taysom Hill against
He won one of
Atlanta
those games in
defenses?
Atlanta.
I didn't bring it up. I said he beat the Falcons in that game.
He
That's all I
won one
said.
of those games in Atlanta against the Rams in the Super Bowl. So get the hell out of here with 28-3. It's a venue, BJ. It's literally in the question. Don't switch up your answers, Kevin.
That's take 3. We do we do it every day here at this time. Sometimes we get yelled at. Sometimes we don't.
Bring it up.
I wasn't bringing anything.
You did.
I said that game that they played against Atlanta. I didn't say the score. I didn't.
No, you did.
We'll come back. We got more to come. 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad you were with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We'll talk some Braves baseball coming up in just a moment, but spring football going on. We'll hear from Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, final hour, but we'll have a spring game coming up on Saturday. BJ with Florida State. They've got a lot of intriguing storylines. Mackenzie Milton, of course, the UCF transfer coming off that horrific injury. Also, Jermaine Johnson transferring over from Georgia. Apparently, he's had a tremendous spring there as well. Could we see a resurgence in 2021 for this Seminoles team who kind of fell apart in 2020 due for a number of reasons, but obviously it was not the same kind of even Seminole football team we've even remotely seen in the last 6 or 7 years even.
Yeah, I think you'll see improvement. The schedule is very difficult, but just in terms of the play on the field, the consistency, in some ways for Coach Norvell and his staff, this is year one, a full kind of potentially more traditional year to understand the offense, to kind of get on the same page defensively, to have a more concrete depth chart. You mentioned transfer when talking about Mackenzie Milton. I think that's kind of the theme of the spring and the offseason for Florida State. You have, over the past couple of years now, probably a dozen plus up in the teens number of transfers who are going to play prominent roles. And Milton is without question the most fascinating, and what he's overcome is really inspiring and impressive when you think about just a terribly tragic injury at UCF that has taken him a couple of years to get back from. But he was one of the national leaders in passer rating for a couple of years in a row. Was a guy that was in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, obviously helped lead one of the longest win streaks in modern college football history. He's a really good player. And the injury was a lot, but based on some of the results from spring, you get a sense that he's healthy, that he's good to go. And I want to say this because it's easy to kind of look back on a disappointing year for Florida State and turn the page. What Jordan Travis did last year was really significant. He's a guy that transferred in from Louisville, probably wasn't quite ready to be the every game quarterback, and particularly throw the ball 25, 30 times a game. Very athletic guy, good runner, and he basically just figured it out for Florida State. Like they would say hike, he would run around, he would throw Hail Marys, he would run it 20, 25 times a game. He was Florida State's offense. He will be a part of this team, and he deserves to be a part of this team. He's a very talented player, but I think Milton might give you a few more schematic options. Ben, I know Jayshon Corbin, the former Texas A&M running back, has been very impressive. I think Florida State's made some strides along the offensive line. And then Johnson, Dog fans know that name. You know what type of player he is. He has dominated. He's probably been the spring standout for Florida State. So a lot of transfers. You're looking at a couple of guys in from South Carolina who are going to start. Mississippi State transfer in along the defensive line. So, Ben, how fast can those transfers kind of all get on the same page? And can Milton kind of be the foundational piece for everybody?
I think Milton has to be the foundational piece. I mean, no matter what you got all around him, you see BJ. I mean, they're gonna dub these quarterbacks the leaders no matter what. Mackenzie Milton is gonna be a guy you're rooting for because you see what football means to him. I mean, obviously being able to come back from that injury that he had a couple of years ago shows the type of player he is. But I think it's probably gonna be more on Jermaine Johnson because that D-line just hasn't lived up to it. Florida State is never, ever going to get the benefit of the doubt, BJ, because they're going to have big-time players on the D-line. But the production got to match the player. And I think a guy like Jermaine Johnson, one, coming from a team like Georgia, going to a team like Florida State, he wants to be that lead dog. He wasn't going to be there at Georgia because they flooded with 5 stars. I'm just thinking about the fact that forget Mackenzie Milton and what he brings to the offense. You're going to have to stop some of these opposing offenses this year. And the thing about Florida State, I mean, got a chance to meet Marvin Wilson, didn't really live up to it. BJ, even though he did come back, I think if you're Florida State, you're going to have to be a team that kind of gives your offense a chance to go because they're going to come at Mackenzie Milton. If you're a defensive coordinator, my job is to come at a guy who I want to test, his grit. I want to test, his ability. Jermaine Johnson's going to have to lead a young group, an inexperienced group that was dead last in the ACC in sacks. So that's a lot on his shoulders, but I respect that. I respect the guy that goes to a big-time school and says, I want to be the guy that can show these young boys how to do it. Because, BJ, Mackenzie Milton, yes, he's going to make that offense better. I got to see how that offensive line is going to be. But Jermaine Johnson, he's going to have to lead a young defense that has a lot of young guys, not just on the defense line around him, because it doesn't matter how many points the offense puts up, if that defense can't get going from the opening game, it might be a long season. And the last time this Florida State team played, a top 10 team to start the season, you remember how the rest of that season went, when they had DeAndre Francois. I hope that doesn't happen this year. But I think it's going to be more on Jermaine Johnson when I'm talking about the transfers, because that defense, they're going to have to get up to speed in a hurry.
And again, they open up with Notre Dame. You got to come out of the gates firing, obviously, for Florida State. And I think some of that in that some of the, I'd say, regression of the program that you see, guys, that first game, a lot of times it's been Miami, or it's been a Notre Dame, or it's been in Alabama. And a lot of times, seemingly, they get off to that 0-1 start, and it kind of sets the tone. I think Virginia Tech, when you had the Willie Taggart era get started, it was, hey, showdown against Virginia Tech, one of their tougher games of the year, and you start off 0-1, and it kind of set the tone for the season for them.
Yeah, and I think Florida State's schedule on paper, probably one of the toughest in the country. I think you could see a scenario where Florida State maybe wins 6 games, maybe it's 7, maybe, folks in Tallahassee don't want it to be 5, but maybe it's not 10, but Florida State gets better, but the schedule is just so difficult where you play Clemson, you play Miami, you play Florida, you play Notre Dame. It is significant. And then some of the other improvement, North Carolina out of the ACC. But I think this team's going to get better. I think they're moving in the right direction. They have a lot of young talent. Ben, how do you find consistency as a football team? And the reason I ask that is because we talked about it last year. Florida State beat UNC last season. They did a really good job against Sam Howell, slowed that running game down, that running game that had like 700 yards against Miami. You had Travis just making play after play in that game. But then you also, found yourself losing to Jacksonville State. You found yourself losing to Wake Forest, struggling to stop Duke, losing games that you should. How do you find the good through all the inconsistency?
You have to accept reality. Like when you're a big time player, the big time program, it's always them. It's not me. And the hardest thing for a student athlete is realize it is you. You are a part of the bad. Everybody wants the good. That's not hard to do. And too often at times you can't be celebrated for what you're supposed to do. No. Showing up on time, doing what you're supposed to do, being where you're supposed to be, that shouldn't be celebrated. That's just the standard. That's like showing up to work on time. What are you doing once you get here? Because BJ, once again, everybody wants to go to Florida State, but that criticism is not going to be fair across the board. Well, you're going to get big time criticism when you go to Florida State. McKenzie Milton, I love what he did at UCF. It's not going to be the same pressure, because the thing is, you adopt what happened before you got here, and you're going to be judged on what you do when you get here. That's just how it goes. So I think consistency is built through accepting that reality. Like Coach Norvell, he had to say to himself, I didn't get it done last year as a head coach. I have to get it done this year, because people thought that Willie Taggart was the problem. They thought, get rid of Willie. Nope. It was the infrastructure that wasn't being built, because maybe, obviously, when you talk about the fact that Jimbo Fisher is gone, BJ, but the quicker they can accept reality, the quicker they can just stop being happy at the fact they got the spear on the side of their helmet and want to compete day in, day out, I think they're going to be a better team. McKenzie Milton did not come to UCF to just say I was a Florida State quarterback. I guarantee he wants to be the one to say, I helped turn this thing back, around to get it in the right direction. But that's going to be easier said than done, because BJ listen, you ain't getting no mulligans the first game of the season because it's Notre Dame. We going to see what type of team you got, because if you want to be taken seriously nationally, you got to be big-time program.
Absolutely. And again, I think a lot of Florida State fans are looking to see if they take that step forward and beat some of those big-time programs, because obviously they view themselves as a big-time program that other teams should want to come in there and try to knock off instead of the other way around in the schedule. So to me, BJ, it's much about mindset as it is talent there in Tallahassee. Like I think Willie Taggart, I say Swaggart, that was the thing. He came in and was like, hey, we're going to bring the swag back. And it was as much about trying to have attitude again as it was winning football games. And obviously when the winning didn't happen, the swag factor went way down with the Seminole program.
And Ben, tell me if I'm wrong. Normally I don't pay any attention at all to spring game stats, right? Because A, that's not necessarily reflective of spring ball as a whole. B, you don't know who's playing. But I do think for Florida State, where your confidence has been just really tough to kind of get a hold of. I mean, you've had, I believe, 3 consecutive losing seasons now. This is a program that when we were growing up was, the best one maybe in college football. I think Florida State wants to see some offensive big plays on Saturday. Whereas if the spring game ends up being, with all due respect, 9-7, and you have picks and turnovers and penalties, I think people may look at it and go, "Wow, last couple of years we've struggled on offense, and now we got our quarterback in, maybe, and now Norvell's been here a couple of years, and it still didn't look good." I know you could then say the defense played well, but I think Florida State wants to see some big plays in the passing game on Saturday.
I think you have to. McKenzie Milton was not brought in. I mean, let's say they're going to have to protect him. I know he's a dual threat quarterback. I don't know how much that's going to be now because I wanted to play all the games. But yeah, BJ, that's what it's for. I mean, the defense knows what the offense is doing. They know the double move is coming, but you want to see you. I compare McKenzie Milton to when Justin Fields first got to Georgia, right, in the spring game. He had highlights from the spring game, but that's what it's for. A spring game is to go out there and light it up. I mean, and I just think that for this Florida State team, BJ, I mean, you want to know as a team, man, what are we gonna look like? What are we gonna look like? Because after this, there's no football until you come back for the summer, and nobody wants. I mean, how in the world is a spring game 9-6? It was a display for the kickers. So I do think that you're gonna want to see some big plays. And for Florida State, Miami looked good last year. Florida looked good last year. Florida State is a part of that big three. Whether they like it or not, you want to start showing that, and I do think some big plays got to happen. I think it will, but once again, Norvell needs to know, man, you one of the biggest coaches in the country because the way you coach, got to start going out there producing. But yeah, I do think the offense got to have some big plays, and that defense, they got to show that they want to be there too, though.
And the Seminoles have their spring game coming up on Saturday. We'll talk to Mike Griffith of Dog Nation in hour number 3 about Georgia and their spring practice and how they are making progress here through the spring. He'll join us coming up in about an hour or so from right now. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network as the Braves get ready for their home opener tomorrow. Some of them are off to a pretty rough start. We'll break it down next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Thanks for being with us here on this Thursday. We'll hear from Bud Ellis, BravesWire.com, coming up in about 20 minutes here on the shows. The Braves get ahead of their home opener on Friday. I saw some photos. They got the 44 painted in the outfield, ready to go for the home opener, honoring Hank Aaron there tomorrow for opening day. But despite the Braves picking up a couple of wins, several guys off to pretty horrendous starts. Ozzie Albies got his first hit in 20 at-bats yesterday in one of those ball games, batting .091. Marcell Ozuna, 100. Dansby Swanson, 143. Between the two of Swanson and Ozuna, they got 18 strikeouts between the two of them in 6 games. So that's not easy to do. And then, of course, on the pitching side, you start with Max Fried, 2 starts, 7 innings, a 9 ERA, and Will Smith, only 2 innings pitched. His ERA also 9. I'll leave the offensive stuff alone, but pitching-wise, does that concern you right out the gate that Max got off to a rough start? And certainly the guy you were hoping was going to close down the ball games has looked anything but effective in his outings.
Yes and yes. And I think with Fried, the expectations are higher and the criticism is more, right, Ben? I mean, this as a pro, when you're a high draft pick or a prominent player on the roster, he's the ace. And we'll see what happens with Mike Soroka coming back. But Max Fried was elite last year. He's been elite throughout his young career. And I thought it was fine in his opening start. I mean, I thought it was okay, but was not good, was really poor in his last go. And you need him to be better than that. I obviously understand you're going to start hopefully 25, 28, 30 times, and you're talking about 2 starts. But, yeah, you don't like the direction there. And then, I mean, Kevin, you know this better than me probably, and I'll defer to your expertise. I mean, with a closer especially, right? Because with a starting pitcher, maybe there's something mechanical going on. Maybe there's something physical because you're talking about possibly throwing 80, 90, 100 pitches every time you go out there. With a closer, it's 5 pitches. It's 10 pitches. So if you can't get guys out, you can't throw strikes. I mean, does it get in your head and does that become a major problem? Or is there something mechanical or just bad bounces, bad breaks here for Will Smith? But for me, I'm with you. The Fried Smith concerns me more than the offensive struggles.
No, I have much more concern about Will Smith than I do Max Fried. Max Fried didn't look good yesterday. His first start was okay. I think he gave up a lot of weak hits to the Phillies, and I think that happens sometimes. Yesterday was certainly a concern because he just didn't look good at all while he was out there. Will Smith concerns me much more because you're paid to come in and throw strikes and get outs and do it quickly and efficiently, and he's done it neither of the times he's been out there. Matter of fact, I think blew the game a couple of days ago and didn't record an out. And I think may have only thrown 2 or 3 strikes the entirety of the inning in that 9th frame. So that's not going to get it done. And I think if you're a closer and your MO is I throw a lot of pitches and I throw balls, you're not going to be the closer very long. So I think for Atlanta, if I'm looking at Will Smith right now, the way Sean Newcomb's pitched, the way AJ Minter's pitched, you have other options to go in there and shut the game down rather than roll the dice with the adventure roller coaster that is Will Smith right now.
But I just think that when you think about a guy like Max Fried, Kevin, it's like before the season when BJ was talking about, man, I would put Max Fried and Soroka and those guys against any other staff. But you were saying, well, to think about Scherzer and Strasburg and DeGrom, those guys have done it at a consistent level over time. Max Fried got to keep on living up to it. He showed what he's capable of doing, but you got to keep doing it. I mean, I look at it as, starting pitchers got to be consistent. Closers got to be clutch, period. And to think about Will Smith, he hasn't been doing it. And I do think one carries over, though, Kevin. I mean, you let me know if I'm wrong. If I'm Will Smith, I'm looking at the starter saying, oh, God. It depends on what I have to do. Like, oh, God, like he's not looking good. That puts more pressure on me to go get it done compared to when he leaves the game and he's putting us in a position to win the game. That, that puts more, because I do think a closer should have more pressure on him than a starter does. But like you said,
I think it's just a mental. I mean, if you're a pitcher, your job is to go in there and close the game down. And the old saying is like the hardest outs to get are the last 3. But I think a mental standpoint is, look, it's one thing to struggle. It's another thing you're not around the plate. I mean, you're hitting guys, you're walking guys, and you're not throwing a lot of strikes. And that to me would be troublesome from a mental standpoint. From a pitcher of like, look, I can't find the plate. And if I can't find the plate, I'm going to be ineffective. I'm not going to be in this role for much longer. And I know he's got the big contract, so he maybe gets a little bit more time. But, man, I got to tell you, for a team that's got high expectations, I don't know how patient they'll be for a guy coming in the ninth inning that is struggling to get it over the plate. I mean, look at how much guff people give, Luke Jackson for a lot of similar stuff. I don't think you're going to be very patient with Will Smith doing the same thing, not being able to get guys out. And if he comes in one more time, probably, I think maybe one more, and has a horrendous ninth inning, I think it's going to be somebody else until he figures it out.
I then a two-part question or response to that. Is that somebody else, AJ Minter, just given that he's done it before? And are you surprised the Braves haven't moved on Shane Green yet?
I mean, I would be calling, unless Shane Green just wants something ridiculous, I would be calling him like right now. He makes a lot of sense to fit in there, but AJ Minter to me is a guy that can't close. I know people were like joking about Sean Newcomb, who looked really good yesterday coming in to finish up that ball game. I think I'd need to see it a little bit more out of him before I felt comfortable with him doing it. But AJ Minter is a guy I think that certainly has the makeup, the mentality to be a guy that can come in and finish out a ball game. So, yeah, I'm on the phone with Shane Green constantly, but if it's me right now, I'm running out of time and patience with Will Smith's inability to get guys out, and I might be looking for another option until he figures it out there on the mound. Offensively, guys are struggling. At least certain guys are. My personal opinion is, look, it's early. They've gotten off to rough starts. If again, much like we talked about with the record, if this happens in June, you might just brush it off and say, boy, Ozzy's really struggling right now. But when you do it at the start of the season, it's really magnified. You're either hitting 600 or you're hitting 091. And 091 is only good in bingo. And that may not even be good in bingo. I don't know if there is an 091. But sorry, Christian, Quidditch or whatever. You want to record it. But 091 is rough. Obviously, any way you slice it, 100 is rough. But I think it's still early enough in the season. If you have a Ronald Acuna type game where you're able to put up 2-3 hits in one game, you'll see that average kind of shoot up. But I think when you look at Ozzy Albies, the danger is the longer it kind of goes on with the struggle, do you kind of Dan Ugly yourself? And the reason I say that is it so low that you could hit 400 and it's never going to look respectable because you got off to such a rough start?
I mean, I think there's a possibility there. I don't necessarily think we'll see that with Ozzy. He's a really good player, but I would not move him. I know some people have said drop him down in the order. Well, my question is, and replace him with who? Like everybody says Dansby Swanson. Dansby's hitting 143, and that's at the bottom of the lineup, and you guys can double check this. I don't believe Dansby is walked, and I think Ozzy has a couple of times, so their on-base percentage is pretty comparable. I mean, outside of Ronald Acuna, everybody in the order is hitting 200 or worse, or like 210 or worse. So I don't know who you would replace him with.
I mean, I know Christian is lobbying for Freddie Freeman to move up in that role. I think sometimes you just look. I mean, Dansby was a guy that hit in a top role, and then he's moved down and found success there. I think maybe you flip-flop. I know Dansby and Ozzy say, well, they're hitting about the same. Maybe both would benefit from being in a different spot in the lineup. If I'm Dansby Swanson, hey, wedge me between Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna, and I might see some good stuff to hit. Right now, he's batting in front of Austin Riley, and the pitcher spot. So it's like, how much are you going to see down at the bottom of the lineup as opposed to guys that are around you? I think Ozzy Albies struggling. We'll see if he can come out. But again, I think beating your head against the wall, waiting for him to come out of it too, might be something you want to try something different. Christian said, look, in the 60-game season last year, he wasn't kind of the same player. Is he going through a little bit more than just a start of the season slump? I think we'll have to see. But, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to flip-flopping Dansby and Ozzy. And you say, well, they're hitting the same. Sometimes just a swap in the batting order sometimes makes all the difference just based on who's around you and what you're getting to see to hit. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. Christian wants Freddie Freeman too. I don't know if I like that minus DH not being there. So I like Freddie in that 2-hole, especially if you can get some guys on ahead of him to really do damage.
But Kevin, you mentioned you mentioned with a guy like Max Fried. I mean, he pitches every 5 days. Will Smith gives you more pause because he's a closer. When you talk about a lineup, a guy like Ozzy, how many games into the season do you say we're going to have to do something, even if he's hitting better? I mean, if he's just not getting better, how many games do you give him to get it right?
Well, I mean, I think you're getting to that point, maybe by the end of the weekend. That would be a little over a week and a half. And I think that's a large enough sample size. I'm not saying it's just full on like, hey, but it might just be time to say, look, take a day, clear your head, come back, have a different approach, or let's just try you in a different spot and see what happens. And sometimes you got to do that. Mix it up. Try something new. And I think you're there. Again, I've always been cautionary against the 1 or 2 game reactionary period on Major League Baseball, because 1 or 2 games, anything can happen. You can look like the best baseball player in the world or the worst baseball player in the world, depending on what 2 games or 3 game sample size you look at. So I think getting close to 2 weeks into the season, if he's still batting under maybe 150, 170, I think you say, hey, maybe you just need a day off, or let's flip-flop and try something else in the lineup. And that may mean, maybe flip-flopping Dansby and Ozzie Albies. We'll ask Bud Ellis about that and more coming up in the final hour of the program from Braves Wire when he joins us. He'll join us again in about 15 minutes here on the show. It is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Where else can you catch us, BJ? That is such a great spot to get us. Again, make sure you check us out there. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you are with us here on this Thursday. Coming up, final hour, we will chat with Bud Ellis, BravesWire.com. Also, Mike Griffith of Dog Nation will join us on the program as well. We'll talk about Georgia and their travels through spring practice and where they sit here in early April. They're in Athens. Quick update of the Masters leaderboard. Justin Rose, now your leader, -4 through 13. He's a shot ahead of Brian Harmon, Savannah native Brian Harmon, and Hideki Matsuyama, who are both in the clubhouse at -3. So we'll look and see if that holds up for Justin Rose coming up as he works his way through the first round. But obviously, we've talked a lot about baseball and the combine, the draft. All of it's about consistency. And Christian laid this story on us. And I don't understand how this even is possible, fellas. But Antoine Griezmann, is that how you say it? Antone, how you say his last name? Griezmann? Yeah. He's got 3 kids. He's a soccer player. He's got 3 kids. All of them were born on April the 8th, and they're not triplets. It's April 8th, 16, April 8th of 19, April 8th of 2021. How is that even possible? It's consistent. I mean, that's what athletes strive for, is consistency. How does that even work, though? When you're, I mean, is it planned? Does he get the plan? Hey, April 8th, it's going to happen, like with the C-section. That is remarkable consistency with the children.
Now, I mean, I didn't know we were going to be. Obviously, I knew we were going to be talking about this. Let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about the Troop clan. We can talk about consistency, right? My father was born October the 15th, right? His grandson was born October the 17th. I was born September 1st. My niece, my brother's only daughter, was born September the 1st. My son was born May 22nd. My nephew, Julie, was born May 25th. I have 2 daughters, and I'm not bragging.
It's not the same day, though.
No. Hold on. But check this out, though, and I'm not bragging. I got 2 daughters, born in the same month, in the same year, and they're not twins. Shut up, BJ. I'm just saying. I just like to say "shut up, BJ." That's my little tagline. But
BJ, that's not the same.
It's not the same.
At the end of the day, that is great planning and great consistency.
No, he did. No, Antoine Griezmann did the Robin Hood, where he hit one arrow with another arrow and then split it with another arrow. I mean, that's 3.
No, that's what I'm saying, Christian. So, Christian, remember how you kept saying, who's going to be the person to inspire you to have children? There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
How?
It makes birthday parties so much easier.
Yeah, it's
like we're having a birthday. Then the whole rest of the year, you're good.
Exactly, Christian. You listen, Christian. Make it up in your mind, young man. You're gonna have a little Christian. When you do it, it's up to you. And when you have number 2, well, it ain't all up to you. But I'm just saying, Christian, just be consistent like this.
Ready. I'm gonna name him Ben just so you feel guilty and have to babysit him.
Listen. You can name him Ben. If you have a little girl, name her Benita. I got you. It's cool.
Benita.
Yeah, that's like that was when you relayed that story on us. I was like, how is that even possible? Like if that's
Listen, he gets that seasonal August feeling.
I know. I guess I understand that, but it's like even if you're trying, how do you get on the same date? Like there's kids that are born 2 weeks later.
Kevin, he feels the first breeze of fall come in.
I guess.
What does a seasonal August feeling mean? What does that mean?
You know what I'm talking about, Ben? When you feel the heat kind of break for the first time.
You feel that August feeling? Yep. All right.
You just make eye contact.
Look at BJ. What is a seasonal August feeling?
All I know is that Griezmann is an extraordinary soccer player, one of the best soccer players in the world. Plays for Barcelona now, so he's one of the best soccer players on earth.
Very consistent. It's going to be early August, and love is in the air at the Griezmann household. Apparently, I mean, that is unbelievable that would even be able to happen. We'll come back. We will talk some Braves baseball with Bud Ellis. Mike Griffith going to join us final hour of the program as well. We'll talk some Georgia football. How are they progressing through spring practice? We'll get the very latest from Mike Griffith as well. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Also catch us Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Final hour of the show coming up next all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here. Final hour of the show. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we'll chat with Mike Griffith of Dog Nation. We'll get the very latest out of Athens as Georgia working its way through spring practice. He'll join us coming up here in just a little bit. But the Braves coming up, home opener tomorrow against the Philadelphia Phillies, coming off a 2-game sweep of a doubleheader yesterday up in D.C. They come home. A lot of storylines, though, around this team. And joining us here from Braves Wire, good friend of the show, Bud Ellis joins us here on 3 and Out. Bud, welcome. How are you? Hey, doing fantastic. I know it's early in the season. We debated a little bit on the show. How important was it to get at least a win there yesterday against D.C., much less 2?
Yeah, look, there's no need to panic because it's baseball, right? And it's 162 games. But I also get the fact that it's magnified when you lose 4 games in a row when they're the first 4 games of the season, right? So I thought it was important for the Braves to, honestly, I would have been fine if they could have just won 1 game yesterday, considering that they kind of threw, the bullpen game with Yascar Yona in game 2, who was outstanding, by the way. But, to win both games, I mean, it's always great to win on getaway day. You win twice on getaway day, that's definitely, even better. And then you get to come home and everybody's home for the first time in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it's been. And, I think it was definitely needed. I think what we saw out of the Braves in Philadelphia, we saw a team that, didn't play bad by any stretch of the imagination. They just ran into some really good pitching and a little bit of bad luck, which happens over the course of a baseball season. But again, that's magnified when it's the first 3 games of the season. So 2 good wins yesterday and a good way to come home and open up the home slate starting Friday.
A number of guys have struggled through a very early stretch here. Is there anybody in particular who worries you even a little bit with the lack of success they've had, Bud?
Yeah, not really. And again, it's funny, right? Because as baseball people, we're so trained to just not fall into the small sample size thing one way or the other, right? So, you come out and, you look at the numbers through 6 games and you see Freddie Freeman's hitting 111. He's 2 for 18. Okay. Well, Freddie Freeman's the reigning MVP and the guy has always hit and he's always going to hit. His exit velocity is 93.6 miles an hour. It's 1.2 miles an hour higher than it was last year when he ranked in the top 9% in the majors. He'll hit soon enough. You look around, Ozzie Albies finally got going, yesterday, with his first 2 hits of the year. He's hitting 091. Marcell Ozuna's hitting 100. And, maybe if this was 2020, which was the ultimate outlier, and, you played, 4 games of a 60-game season, maybe you're a little more concerned. But again, it's baseball. I mean, these guys, I think these things will even out, I think the one constant that I don't worry about, is Ronald Acuna Jr. because he's come out of the gates absolutely blazing, 1012 OPS, almost 97 mile an hour exit velocity. And hey, the 40-40 quest, he's off and running, 2 homers, 2 steals already through 6 games. But this team's a very good offensive team. We've talked about it all season. They'll hit soon enough. And let's give some credit where it's due. I mean, particularly the Phillies really impressed me with their pitching, especially their bullpen, which was historically bad last year. If the Phillies relievers pitch like that this year, I might have to think about the Phillies being more than an 82 or 83 win team.
And but how much of the Braves, I guess you call them early struggles, even though they are 2-4, does have to do with they're going to be in probably the most competitive division in baseball this year.
Yeah, that's it, right? I mean, it's going to be like this. I mean, there's going to be stretches where, a very, very good team will lose 3 out of 4 or 4 in a row, because the competition that they're facing, with the unbalanced schedule, I mean, you're facing the Mets 19 times. You're facing the Nationals 19 times, the Phillies 19 times. There's 57 games right there. That's a third of your season right there against 3 teams that, very well, could end up in the National League playoffs. And they're very good teams and they're built on pitching, which is, again, you could sit here and you can look at the numbers through 6 games and go, oh man, Dansby Swanson's hitting 143. Well, Dansby also got a 2-out, nobody on base hit in the 7th inning, the final inning of game 2 yesterday. coming through in the clutch and setting up Pablo Sandoval's big moments. So, again, this is a very good offensive team. Certainly they're going to hit little ruts throughout the year. Every team does. For me, I think if you come home 0-6, then you're looking around going, hey, what's going on? It's only 2 wins, but 2-4 looks a lot better, especially when you consider all 6 of those games were division games, as you said.
Well, certainly. Bud Ellis joining us here, BravesWire.com. And Bud, you look at some of the other, outliers in the early season. Will Smith, and I know it's early, but he just, to me, has not looked good. Trouble throwing strikes, trouble getting outs. How much more time do you give him to figure it out in the 9th inning before you say, hey, maybe in the short term, you're coming in someplace else?
Yeah, that's the thing, too. The Chris Martin injury does complicate things a little bit because Martin is that guy in the bullpen that you can almost always count on to come in and just pound the strike zone. Smith looks a little off on his slider right now. Only 55% of his pitches, have been for strikes so far, and certainly, he's better than that. But again, he really hasn't been hit around that hard. The ball Soto hit off of him, on Monday, to cap off that game. That was the one loss of the 4 that really bothered me because, it was the bullpen just struggled, throughout for the most part, other than Josh Tomlin. So that one bothered me a little bit, but, to your question, again, I don't think you panic right now. Certainly if Will Smith, if we're sitting here in 2 weeks and we're talking about a guy who's missing the strike zone 45% of the time, he's walking guys, he's not getting ahead, he can't locate the slider, then maybe you entertain the question at least a little bit. But again, it's so early in the season, and I know what I know what these guys are capable of and what they're supposed to do. I'm not going to sit here and really entertain, that thought right now. Again, I want to see Will Smith continue to get the opportunities over the next couple weeks, see if you can get him into a little bit of a groove. Maybe it's just a rut to start the season, but this is a guy who saved 34 games 2 years ago for the Giants by getting people to swing and miss with a slider. And again, credit to, there's good offenses in this division besides Atlanta as well. And I wrote this in my season preview. Will Smith's going to have to find a way to get outs in the 9th inning in the biggest pressure situations that, he's faced in his career. He did it for a Giants team that was mediocre. Now he's going to have to do it for an elite team playing in the best division in baseball. Not a great start so far, but let's see what transpires.
Does anything but look different to you with Max Fried? I know he was pretty good. He was okay in his debut, but the last time out did not do well.
Yeah, he hasn't been sharp. That's just what it comes down to. One of the interesting things about Max for me is, I think he'd be the first to tell you he did not have his ace stuff in either of his first 2 starts. But the first start really showed me something. Bases loaded, 1 out in the first. He only gives up a run on a sac fly. He gets a strikeout to end the inning. 3rd inning, he leaves 2 guys stranded with a strikeout. In the 4th inning, 2 more runners on. Strikes a guy out to end the inning. And then in the 5th inning with a runner on second, he strikes out the last 2 hitters that he faces. I think the sign of a really good pitcher who is really growing is a guy who can go out there with his C stuff and find a way to keep his team in the game. He leaves opening day, down 2-0. Braves certainly had a chance to win that game. They're still in the game. But he hasn't been sharp. And I don't know if it's a mechanical thing. I don't know if he's a little too amped up for, being the quote unquote, opening day starter. That's a big deal for guys. I don't care if they try to downplay it or not. But again, I've seen Max at his best. I've seen Max be in a rhythm and pitch extremely well, especially over 2020 and 2019. I think he'll be fine. He kind of dodged the bullet with the comebacker coming off his calf yesterday. Who's to say that he locks in after that? We'll never know. But we'll see how he looks in his 3rd start moving forward.
But I know you already touched on it with a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. Obviously, I think that he can be as good as he want to be. But how important is it for him to stay hot? I understand that Freddie Freeman was that guy of that model of consistency for so many years. Do you think because Freddie can finally have a sigh of relief saying, I don't have to be that spark, but Ronald Acuna Jr. kind of has to be that game in the game out, even if he's not at his best?
Yeah, exactly, Ben. And that's the thing. Again, you're talking about, this kid is one of the transcendent stars in baseball. And I think people who don't follow the Braves people from afar might wonder, okay, why is this guy batting leadoff? Yeah, and we know he's capable of stealing 40 bases. He stole 37 2 years ago, and I mentioned he's got 2 in 6 games so far. But there's just something about him at the top of that lineup card, guys. I mean, he is, if you're an opposing pitcher, and we've seen what Ozzie Albies can do. Freddie Freeman speaks for himself. Marcell Ozuna's had 2 fantastic, seasons in the majors where he was a top 15, top 20 hitter in the majors in 2017 with Miami, and then last year in the short season with Atlanta. But you're starting it with this guy, Acuna, who, can hit the ball 465 feet. If he hits it in the gap, he's a threat to go 3 bases. If he gets on first, he's a threat to steal second. He's going to score from second on any single to the outfield. And the one thing that, has stood out to me about Ronnie so far is, he's got 2 or 3 hits where guys tried to go down and away with him, and he just served it to right center. I mean, this guy is continuing to evolve as a hitter. And I mean, again, we've talked about it on this show really since he came up 3 years ago. It almost gives you chills to think about just how good this guy's going to be if he stays healthy by the time he reaches 26, 27, 28 years old and he's in his prime. He's something else, guys.
Bud Ellis joining us here on 3 and Out. Bud, finally, the homestand starts tomorrow. I think one thing's been clear, obviously, over the last couple of months. Sports are better when fans are there. You're going to have fans at Truist Park for the first time in a year. Hank Aaron going to be honored. He's got 44 already painted in the outfield. I know you are going to be in the house. What is that scene going to be like to have a game with fans there in Atlanta for the first time in a year?
Well, 18 months ago tomorrow was Game 5 of the Cardinals series, the 10-run first inning, and it was a game that I wanted to leave early. And my oldest son said no because Brian McCann's probably going to retire, and Julio Teheran's probably going to get to pitch the 9th inning, and those were his 2 favorite players growing up. They helped him fall in love with baseball. So we stayed until the 9th inning so he could see JT pitch to BMAC, throw to BMAC one more time. And it was kind of an emotional moment for both of us walking out of the building after that. But I never dreamed that it would be 18 months until I got to see a live baseball game of any kind again, and 13 months since I got to see a live sporting event. The last sporting event I went to was Atlanta United's home opener last year against FC Cincinnati. For me, there's a lot of emotion there because this is my 39th home opener. My birthday's in March. I used to get opening day tickets as a birthday present every year from the time I was in elementary school. I mean, even after I got married, my mom and dad would still send me $20 to, buy hot dogs or whatever at opening day. I mean, it's a special day. It's going to be a little different because, we're not tailgating. There's only going to be 13,000 people there. I consider it a tremendous blessing to be one of those people who's there. And given everything that we've been through, as individuals, as families, as a country, obviously Braves country, losing Hank Aaron, losing Phil Niekro, losing Don Sutton, not having fans in the stands last year, and just, you roll all that in with the usual pomp and circumstance of a home opener. That and the fact that this team's really good and they were 1 win away from the World Series last year. It's going to be awesome to be there. It's probably going to be a little emotional to be there. And I told my wife last night, I've been very lucky in that I've gotten to walk through the gates and walk into the house for World Series games in my life. I've gotten to do that, both as a fan and as a sports writer. And I almost feel like it's going to be that type of energy tomorrow night and that type of emotion tomorrow night. And, boys, I can't wait. A long time coming.
Can tell you're excited about it, Bud. We appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, boys. Take care.
We'll do. We'll come back. Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, going to join us next. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Thursday. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Georgia working their way through spring practice as they are obviously looking to find some wide receivers to step up, defensive backs, who's going to step up there, and more. Joining us here from Dog Nation to talk about that and more, Mike Griffith joins us. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well, guys. Thanks.
I know quarterback has not been an issue this go around. It's going to be JT Daniels' show, but obviously he came in mid-season, last couple of games, took over at quarterback and finished the season up. How has he used spring to kind of develop as a leader and as a player in this Georgia offense now that he's kind of had a little more time to jump in here?
Yeah, he's set. He's an NFL caliber guy. It's just a matter of what those skilled guys around him can learn. That'll determine how extensive the Georgia playbook will be.
What are your expectations for him this fall? I mean, is this a guy that's 300 yards, you think, per week? Is that kind of the standard, or does it depend on a lot what we see statistically?
Well, I mean, obviously every game's going to have a different set of circumstances. You play Clemson, you figure you're going to need a lot of points to beat those Tigers. I mean, they've got a dynamic offense as well, and Georgia has a young secondary. So probably going to need a lot more points to beat them than you would UAB, more points in yardage, right? I do think they'll throw the ball more even in some of the games they're up big because they got to work that passing game and get those receivers in sync. But a lot of those running backs are going to turn into receivers too, as Georgia's going to go with that air raid offense. You saw a lot of that towards the end of last year with JT under center. I think they averaged over 40 points and nearly 400 or 500 yards per game with him during the last 3 games of regular season.
And speaking of that young secondary, I mean, if a guy like Tyke Smith does get cleared to play this season, how much different does it make that secondary look?
Well, it's hard to say. West Virginia's not in the SEC. He didn't go up against Alabama and Florida last time I checked. So we'll see how he adjusts to the SEC. There's going to be competition at the safety position. He was brought in to play the star nickel. That's where I think he'll play. I think Georgia's got to go back to the portal and get another cornerback before they have a significant impact in their secondary.
Mike Griffith joining us here on 3 and Out. Obviously, wide receiver folks trying to find some playmakers there to step up. They got a freshman, Mitchell, making some noise here in camp. How has he looked, and does he have a spot maybe to figure in the rotation?
Yeah, I don't think he's got a spot yet. I think he's got to learn the offense still. Right now, obviously, he's going to do what he can do, but being able to go out there and play in a pro-style offense as a true freshman, that's going to be a challenge. And there's a lot of guys ahead of him. D-Rob had a big scrimmage. Demetrius Robertson looks like he's going to be in the mix. You got Kyrus Jackson coming back. Justin Robinson's the second-year player. That Atlanta area big-time 6'4", 220 guy. So they got plenty of, Arian Smith, Jermaine Burton. To say that a guy like Adai is going to come in and make an impact is that's a bit much. If the kid can get 15 or 20 catches, that would be great. But this is like I said, this is a complex offense. It's not something you just walk out there and play. It takes reps. It takes experience and a really good understanding of the playbook if you're going to be on the same page as JT.
And with those wide receivers, is the depth chart, largely set, or is there room for a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4 to kind of take shape and move around a little bit out there?
They want all those guys to learn a bunch of different positions. The more versatility you got, the better your chances. But yeah, everything's still wide open. I mean, this off season is where they're going to make hay. They already have, JT's kind of commandeered that. He'll run the off season workouts. He'll work out with a lot of these guys. I mean, Georgia's got a long way to go to get to where they want to be offensively for these guys to catch up to JT. And, that's going to be important. They got to be on the same page, right? We saw it happen with Joe Burrow and those LSU receivers, and saw it happen with Mac Jones in Alabama. But there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into that. You don't just walk out there and learn it. It takes time. It takes reps. And so it's going to be a long off season for Georgia to get where they want to go.
And Mike, obviously, is a couple of years in to his young career. How was Nolan Smith look this spring?
Wow. Well, the number 1 overall recruit in the country. It looks like it took him 3 years to win a starting job, but I think he's going to get it. I think this year he's finally going to be on the field and maybe try to show what all the hype is about. He's got big shoes to fill. He wasn't able to beat out Azeez Ojulari for 2 years, and Azeez did some pretty big stuff. First round, looks like Azeez is going to be a first-round draft pick, and I'm eager to see what Nolan can do. I know he can rush the passer. I want to see if he can play the run. Not the biggest guy in the world, and does he have that inordinate strength where he can collapse the edge like Azeez did? Without being 270, 275. It's a lot to ask. I mean, this is two guys from Savannah, right? Demetrius Robertson was the number one receiver at his position, and we're waiting to see him, crack, Georgia's starting lineup and have a big impact. And now here's Nolan, another guy that was a number one, that's in his third year waiting to make an impact. So it'd be big for Georgia if those two Savannah area guys can come through.
Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, joining us here. Mike, quickly, and finally, Kirby Smart, reportedly really upbeat this spring. Is that just because he's got spring practice to work with his squad? And obviously he knows the talent that he's got, bringing in some top recruiting classes over the last few years.
Yeah, I think that's one reason. I think Will Muschamp's another. I think having Will there as an analyst has really given Georgia a boost. I mean, Will Muschamp is a guy that's been around the block a few times. He's been a really talented, effective coordinator. He's got head coaching experience at Florida and South Carolina, so he knows the league. He's a former Georgia Bulldog, just like Kirby, and him and Kirby go way back. Will helped him get a job way back in the day at Valdosta State. So you've kind of got a friend and a peer, a guy you can look in the eye. I think Will's made a big impact helping with those guys in the secondary. I think he just makes Georgia a better and a happier place. So I think that was a really big addition. And I know Will's happy to be here. He's got a son on the team that's a walk-on. So that's kind of a feel-good story, I think, with George and Will reunited. I think Will Muschamp's really going to give a boost to Georgia.
Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, our guest here on 3 and Out. Mike, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Hey, appreciate it. Mike Griffith joining us. And again, never underestimate the value of that good analyst position there with Will Muschamp coming back. We've seen a number of other schools, BJ and Ben, but as you said, Kirby, Will Muschamp, friends, brings him in to be an analyst with that team, and you get more input there, and we'll see how it pays off moving forward. But apparently Kirby Smart pretty excited about going through spring ball here and working with the guys he's got.
Well, he's got a lot of talent. And, Ben, you think about, the wide receivers, you have NFL guys, even without George Pickens. Once a season settles in, are there clearly defined roles in a passing game? You're the number one, you're the number two, you're the number three, or is it fluid?
No, you know who the number one is. You know who the number two is. Number three is. I think that's really, really good for an offense because it keeps everybody on schedule. You understand who's going to get the boatload of the targets. But I think what makes football exciting is the number two and number three can change. The number one will stay the same because they built that rapport. It kind of goes back to that Georgia game. Taylor Jacobs and Rex Grossman, that was his number one. But you see what happens when the number one goes down. It makes it good for everybody. So that's what makes football what it is. Everybody wants to be that number one until you realize how consistent you have to be. You don't even got to be the best player. You got to be the most consistent player. The number two, number three, or dare I say number four, that's what makes practices competitive. Because I'm not going to go up to the quarterback and say, hey, man, your boy's going to be open today. He said, you're going to be open today? Yeah. Well, go show me during practice. That way I can look for you in the game. And I think that's what makes football exciting is it's not no buddy system. I'm not going to be the roommates with the quarterback to get the rock, but I am going to get open to get the rock during the week.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. You got the combine. I'll put that in quotation marks this week. You got medical evals. You got interviews going on. What is that? How big of a deal is that? We'll break that down next. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along on this Thursday. Combine this week. A little different, though, NFL Combine, and that we're not going to see all the running around and workouts and things of that nature. You got the medical evals and interviews, which, Ben, I know you've said when you went, like, look, if I don't have to do the events, I really don't want to do the events. And given that everybody has pro days now, I mean, this kind of seems like what the combine should be, right? Like, hey, check me out, make sure my knees and elbows and ankles aren't about to fall off my body, and talk to me and go from there. Could this be maybe one of the better draft combines we've seen in terms of, like, look, there's nothing else to do but check you out and talk to you. How much does this change the draft at all, given that it's just FaceTime and evals?
It makes it even, because nobody can say that somebody had, I'm going to do better numbers from the combine to when I went to my pro day. And I go back to 2004 when I was coming out, and I'm there with some great players. I'm there with, Michael Boulware, I'm there with Chris Perry and, Kevin Jones and those guys. And the one thing, and when we would work out in the morning, and in between, we would do breakout sessions and do interview sessions. And in our mind, we thinking, come on, man, why are y'all stressing this so much? So they took us back to 2003. They said, out of all the receivers coming out, Dante Stallworth, he was the first receiver taken. And they said the reason why he went over everybody was not because of how he ran. He was the only guy that said he didn't have any weaknesses. Every other receiver, they said, what's your weakness? Oh, man, if I can get open better, if I can. They said, Dante, what is your weakness? I don't have weakness. He said, you guys, any of my teammates. And we didn't think that was big until we understood. He goes, why would you tell somebody what you lack? So as much as we think this stuff don't separate you, it does. Because if I'm sitting in front of you, this is how I really sell myself. Okay, I've met the physical measurables. I've ran, I've jumped, I've lifted. Tell us about yourself. Well, no, I don't know. Like because you got to think, you're 21, 22, you're about to be a face of a franchise. Even if you're not a quarterback, I think this is what is really going to separate it, because I guarantee you, if you have a bad interview, it's going to go viral. They're going to show what you said. But if you have a good one, so if I'm putting up a highlight tape of a player and I go, Sean, how do you break him down when he doesn't have on, shoulder pads? This is how he interviews. Meaning somebody told us this should look like you're doing an interview for a Fortune 500 company. You shouldn't even tell that this is an NFL interview. And that's what it is. So you're going to get the dumb questions. You're going to have to sit there through the dumb ones. But I think 2021 is going to be even, because everybody had their tape to go off of. Everybody did their pro day at home, which I ain't never seen so many 4.3s in my freaking life. I mean, everybody was running linebackers, safeties, whomever. But now, okay, can he sell himself? And right, wrong, indifferent, how I am and who I am is about to collide, because now I got to sell both of those people to these GMs, head coaches, and dare I say position coaches and owners.
I mean, Ben, when you go into these interviews, do you go in with a plan? Do you go in just saying, hey, I'm going to be 100%, honest to whatever they ask? Or do you have things you want to sell on your behalf? Like, what's the mindset?
Now, I will say this. When you was at the combine, I'll go ask somebody, hey, man, I got the Browns next. You just came out. They'll tell me they're going to have this shrink. It's like, we telling each other. Now, listen, the best plan is just be open-minded, because they're going to get through the quick stuff quick. Hey, man, what type of offense y'all ran? Oh, in this game that's in the third inning, you want to be a sailboat or a speedboat? What the hell? You want to be a and I'm telling you, I don't know what that stuff is for, to be honest with you. Like, the dumbest question I got was, you rather be a Pro Bowler on a team that didn't make the playoffs, or you rather be, you'd rather be a role player on a team that did make the playoffs. I'm like, well, hell, can I be both? Can I be a Pro Bowler? It's like, but I'm 21, right? And I be forgetting the live. Like, I'm telling you, it's how you look, how you sound, how you talk. And the biggest thing is I heard somebody say, hey, man, am I going to get a phone call about you in the middle of the night? Am I going to get woken up in the middle of the night and say, Ben, and what am I supposed to say? Well, I mean, it depends. What city? I don't know. No. So I just think BJ and Kevin, man, you want this, right? But just know this. This is the last leg of this relay race. Season, there go the first leg. All right. Second leg could be combine. All right, boom. Measurables 3. Now, this is the one to where I'm saying, all right, man, come on with it. Basically, you saying, come on with the dumb stuff. Like, come on. Because it's gonna go from real professional to dumb to just black. But this is a part of it. So if I'm if I'm Zach Wilson, right, I'm going to get asked, why weren't you voted team captain? You the quarterback. Oh, or if I'm Jamar Chase, do you love football? Yeah. Why you opted out? Like they're going to ask you these things, right? They're going to ask you these things, and they're going to get to ask you this. If Kevin's coming out, right? Hey, Kevin, man, so what's up? Tell me about Gwinnett County.
Yeah, God help any team that's
but I will say this. They're gonna say BJ. So I hear you think you the best, cast netter, in coastal Georgia. And it's the thing. They're letting you know. I know you. No. I'm telling y'all. They letting you know. They told this what they said. All right, man. If I want chicken, do I want KFC or do I want Maryland's fried chicken? And I'm like, and I said, do you like it cooked in Crisco or peanut oil? Because that's what they cook them in. But I will say. Ben, let me ask you this. Do they want you to be yourself and give answers that are maybe a little different, or are they looking for a specific set of answers? They want you to be honest. They can tell you've been scripted because you answer real fast. Man, tell everybody, say, it's real quick. Then they'll say, They want to see, they want to say, all right, man, I'm cussing you out in front of the whole team. You are a top drafted rookie. How do you handle it? And I say, am I getting paid still? Yeah, I can handle it. You know what I'm saying? Because BJ, you got to think. They're trying to see what cracks you. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to see. I tell you what, this is how I know this stuff is a fallacy. This stuff is fake, right? Kellen Winslow got kicked out of the meeting with the Cleveland Browns. They kicked him the hell out. They said, get out of here. Because he was in there tripping. You know who drafted him? The Cleveland Browns drafted him. So my interview probably was too buttoned up. Maybe I should have went out saying, to hell with you, to hell with you, to hell with you. Because that's what got him drafted number 6. So I guess me being all, all sweet and nice got me 40th. But it's all good.
We did have a little interesting tidbit. The Falcons, BJ, recently just signed Willie Beavers, who was drafted by the Vikings in 2016. He just signed with the Falcons, and apparently somebody asked him what he was asked at the combine, and he said the Falcons. One of the Falcons scouts said, "Would you rather be a cat or a dog?" And he said, "I want to be a dog." It made us think that maybe your guy David Bennett was in the scouting department there with the Falcons, saying, "Hey, we don't need no meows. We need to be a dog."
Y'all put that in there just so you can play the clip. So go ahead and play it.
I don't know if Cody has it pulled up. He should, but I don't know that he does. We don't need no meows. We need to be a dog. No, that's not it. We can't find it. Yeah. Hey, if you answer, that's
hold on.
Football. No, seriously though, if a football guy asks you, "Do you want to be a dog or a cat?" is the correct answer ever a cat?
It depends on how good you. It depends on how good you can meow. Like if you got a nice meow, who knows? But this is the thing. This is the thing. I said, yeah. I'm a cat. I'm a cat that's gonna beat the hell out of you. You want those type of cats? Like I said, Kevin. Once again, they know you have to sit there through it. That's what the interview process really is. It becomes being this and being that. Hey, Kevin, what do you want? You got it?
Yeah, we got it. I think we found it finally.
Trying to get our 2 boys ready to carry them to golf tournament for practice, right? 12 cats live across the road. Our door's open. Screen's broke. We need to get a new screen door, but the screen's broke. So you can come in through the screen, but you can't get back out of it. I turn and look, there's a little kitty cat in our kitchen. So I said, "What are you doing in here, little kitty cat?" By that time, the cat turns, tries to get back out. That screen won't go that way. Cat starts going, meow, all crazy. And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, "What's going on?" I said, "There's a cat in the house." "Cat in the house?" I said, "Yeah, there's a cat in the house." So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. Meow, meow, the cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
That is classic every time you get to hear it.
You know what? That's it. That's it. Coach Bennett, that's it. If I would have known this, they would have been like, "It's Ben, tell us about this back when I was a kid or whatever." If I would have did that, they would have been like, "Ben, crazy as hell. Don't ask me no questions if you don't want to get no stories." That is one of the greatest stories because he was speaking for everybody. It's a cat in the house, cat in the house, cat. Man, that stuff is that is gold right there. I love that. I can hear that.
Ben, I'm thinking about your answers and I'm thinking about the question. And if I'm not remembering correctly, you can correct me. But wasn't there like a Doritos thing in one of your questions where a guy was like eating Doritos weird?
Yeah, so when I got interviewed by Tampa Bay, and it's crazy, Doug Williams, the great Doug Williams, was in there, right? And I'm sitting there talking with the DB, with the tight ends coach or whatever, and he's eating Doritos. I don't see no bag. He pulls out a drawer, like a dresser drawer, and it's full of Doritos, right? He grabs them in his hand, eating them, like, "You want some?" I'm like, "Hell no, I'm on some Doritos, not yours." Like, so all I'm saying is I love Doritos too. Now don't get it twisted. I wanted some, but I'm like, dude, you just licking on your fingers, man, dipping your hands like in that little nasty little boy. So I'm just saying, yes, BJ, Mike Tice, who used to be the head coach of Minnesota, got mad at me because I wouldn't tell him what my weaknesses was. He told me, oh, come on, Mr. Florida, tell us what your weaknesses are. And I'm thinking to myself, you the head coach of Minnesota, ain't you? What are y'all weaknesses? Don't be in here talking trash to me because y'all be getting the brakes beat off of y'all. So I'm just saying I had to taper that, but you want the Kellen Winslow, get kicked out, you get drafted high, or you can be a dog. You can do all that. I just have fun with the interviews, fellas. Don't take it too serious. This is the last round for the relay race to get it to the finish line. After this, I know it's crazy. It is over. And everything past this is the draft.
We're in the home stretch.
Yes.
Then the draft will be upon us, and we'll see what the Falcons decide to do there at 4. I think the draft's going to start with them. They're at number 4. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Thursday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Again, Braves off tonight. They'll have their home opener tomorrow against the Philadelphia Phillies, and be excited to see them back in Truist Park for the first time here in 2021. Speaking of baseball, though, we'll have it for you in our Savannah market tonight. Georgia and Vanderbilt. If you like college baseball, BJ, some good pitching the next couple of nights for Vanderbilt. You got Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, probably two dudes who are going to be very, very highly drafted into Major League Baseball. I think if you add their ERAs together, you barely get over one. So they're combined 14-0. One has a .84 ERA. One has a .43 ERA. This game could move quickly over the next couple of nights.
And SEC baseball is about as good as it gets. I mean, you look at the national polls, and it's SEC team, and then finally you get like 8 or 9, and maybe there's a Pac-12 team or an ACC team. But yeah, Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt. You look at the guys they've had go on to the next level and star in the major leagues. I know you have some really good teams in the SEC West as well, but Vanderbilt, one of those teams to beat undoubtedly in the conference and nationally.
Yeah, I was just saying, just if you're a college baseball fan in general, you get a chance if you're a Georgia fan to see those guys maybe too up close and personal, but the way they're pitching, man, it's been unbelievable. You follow the social media after they pitch, and it's like, I think Jack Leiter went like 16, 17 innings without giving up a hit. It's insane. It's like playing on the
that's what flex at. That's what listen, Vanderbilt know they be flexing when it comes to baseball, Kevin. You don't got to be modest. I mean, look, it take a little while to get to the season, but once they get there, they know they flexing a little bit. But yeah, SEC baseball, oh yeah, it's top notch.
Absolutely. So again, that on tap a little bit later tonight, and again the Braves home tomorrow against the Phillies, and again be good to see him back in Truist Park for the first time in 2021, and maybe get the bats cooking there, BJ. As I know, we look at some of the batting averages. Nobody outside of Ronald Acuna really setting the world on fire in terms of the just the raw average. Maybe that'll change playing in the friendly confines at home for the first time here.
Yeah, you'll have the course corrections, man. It's coming. And I mean, Kevin, you've talked about this. Look, we all understand Ozzie Albies has struggled, Marcell Ozuna, Freddie Freeman. But if those guys have a 3 for 4 or a 4 for 5, all of a sudden you go from hitting 170 to like 295 in a span of a couple of hours. So it's all going to come back around, and the power is going to be there. I mean, we're going to see it throughout the lineup. I was just curious, Kev, because we we're looking at him to be a big piece of the rotation. Charlie Morton, to you, is he a guy that because of his considerable experience and age, he's been around a while, maybe you look at him and go, hey, if you can get us into the 6th over the duration of a 162, that's what we look for? Or is he a guy you look to and say, hey, look, Max is not pitching great right now. Mike Soroka's still out. We need you to be 7-8 innings and go out there and kind of be our de facto ace.
Well, I think it's still early in the season to kind of throw that out that we need 8 innings. But, yeah, get me past the 6th if you can. I thought he had a good debut up in Philadelphia. I mean, they didn't really hit him hard. It was more, bad luck. That's going to happen every once in a while than anything else. So I'm excited to see him kind of be with the staff for the entirety of the season. I think what you saw yesterday from Huascar Ynoa makes you feel a little bit better about Mike Soroka being out a couple of weeks extra. So, I mean, the Braves are stacked with pitching, and it's continuing to show itself off here in a big way. And I think what you saw yesterday maybe buys you a little more time with Mike. But yeah, Charlie Morton, to me, I mean, he's already done more than Cole Hamels did last year, and that he pitched more than 1 inning. So, I mean, I think what we're going to see from him is going to be a lot of fun to watch as he kind of gets comfortable with the 2021 season. But yeah, excited about him and what he's going to be able to do.
Kevin will not let it go. Kevin said, "Listen, you don't take our money, and don't go out there and do what you asked him to do."
No, but I think he's one of those where, like, if Max Fried struggles, that's why you had Cole Hamels last year, right? He's like, hey, I'm the veteran dude who's done this for several years. If y'all struggle, I'm here to pick you up. I think that's what his role is going to be. With his Braves team, we'll get a chance to see him tomorrow. Appreciate Bud Ellis and Mike Griffith joining us here in the final hour. If you missed any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com. You can also go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, get a podcasted version of 3 and Out each and every day. Conversation continues on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We'll see you tomorrow all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.